Hello, Florida. This is Joe Mullins of the Live Workshop Play Show, and we have a very special show. It's a very concerning show. This is the most beautiful place in the world to live, Florida. This is one of the most amazing weekends. We're right before Christmas time. Um, we have seen a lot happen in our state. We've seen a lot happen in our country the last 4 years. This is probably one of the most important shows you can listen to. One of the most eye-awakening situations happened just earlier this week. Miami, for the first time, elected a Democratic mayor in over 30 years. A city that we boasted just a few months ago and a year ago that we had turned to a solid red city and county. This wasn't supposed to happen. It happened. We're sitting in shock right now, scratching our heads, wondering what went on. While many of our local and state leaders were celebrating the holidays, in Washington, D.C., one of the most important elections occurred, and we just assumed we were going to win it. I have two very special guests with me. One comes from the great state of Florida. It's our amazing Lieutenant Governor, Jay Collins. Jay, welcome to the show.
Joe, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it, brother.
And then the next one is from another great state, an amazing state, a state I went to college in and did my master's, a state that I go and do a lot of events in and visit, a state that our big Super Bowl was in this coming year, the great state of California. Now, many people go, how can you even say that's a great state with all the stuff going on? I've got Kim Yeater with Take Your Power Back. She has a podcast and a show, Take Your Power Back. Kim, welcome to the show.
Oh, Joe, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Kim. Now to have you guys, our Florida Lieutenant Governor, and have you out in California on the show. I think many people think we're about to have a battle here in a war, but there are some good people out there. We were talking on the phone yesterday about Florida and how it saved the country and how it just stood strong during one of the most pivotal times. We certainly have two contrary lieutenant governors and governors. Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins has visited the state not too recently, but not to go look at the state and tour it. Governor Collins, you were out in California. You came out there to do something that was really unbelievable. Tell our listeners why you went to the state of California.
Yeah, Joe, no, I appreciate it. We were actually out there to extradite and bring back an illegal immigrant who had killed three people here in Florida, three Floridians. And in the end, leadership matters. I'm a 23-year retired Army Green Beret. My wife's a 20-year veteran. So when we talk about service and sacrifice, we know that we want leadership from the front. And, we really weren't sure what Gavin was going to do. We weren't sure what games were going to be played. And I also wanted to make sure that there was a statement made that in Florida, we're going to stand up for our people. This guy shouldn't have been driving that rig. He couldn't speak English. He couldn't read the road signs. And three Floridians lost their lives simply because of that. And we had to make a statement. You've seen a shift simply because of that moment in our actions where accountability is being brought across the country now with other states, our state, and our federal government working together to hold people accountable to make sure licenses, for these 18-wheeler semi-trucks are more managed. But in the end, we had to go be bold, set foot in Gavin Newsomville, right? Go over there and poke the bear a little bit, which we were happy to do, and bring home this guy who cost three Floridians their lives. And, the reality is California is beautiful. There are great things there, and you have to try really hard to screw up a state like California, and yet Gavin Newsom manages to do it. It's absolutely crazy.
Now, Lieutenant Governor, when you went out there, did you get any pushback or did you get any negative views or comments from the governor or the governor's office about you coming out to his state?
Yeah, Gavin shot out a few one-liners and zingers, but I think maybe he should work on fixing his own state's economy before he starts criticizing anything we do. If he had served in the military or done something harder than what he'd done in his life, he would know that leaders should lead. That means from the front and be decisive and bold, stand up for our law enforcement, make strong decisions. And frankly, one of the main reasons I went out there is if there were going to be games played, let it happen in front of me. Let it happen while I'm on the ground, not when a trooper or a member of our FDLE or our Highway Patrol are going to be out there escorting this person. We'll deal with it face first. Leadership matters. Gavin didn't like it. He had a hurt feelings report apparently, and we're okay with that.
So basically, you went out to make sure our law enforcement wasn't bullied or compromised or that they weren't intimidated or messed with by them. You basically stood by the first
That's right.
responders and the public safety officers that put their lives on risk every day for us.
That's right. Leading from the front matters.
Now, Kim, you guys woke up this morning to a governor going crazy, tweeting, your madman governor. I called him the mad scientist, the fruitcake in the Fruitville.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's sitting
Mhm.
there going crazy, going, "Florida's ours. We've got it. We just got to keep pushing." He's making comments like, "We are about to make California Florida, or Florida California."
Yeah.
And that's stuff that we take very sensitive over here. I know the lieutenant governor being one
Mhm,
of the first to
mhm.
say that ain't happening, but he's up there tweeting and going crazy because of what happened in Miami. A 30-year-old stronghold for Republican mayors for the first time in 30 years flipped last night. This gives a hope and a sense of accomplishment to that very, very far left wing group. What are your comments on that? And is that what is someone like you in California who's sitting here with hope and you've watched Florida and you keep going, we want to be like y'all. What does that make you feel?
Well, I'll tell you what, definitely frustrated. First of all, Lieutenant Governor, I want to say thank you for poking the bear. Thank you for showing up. I mean, you came to our state, you put a stake in the ground, you went and retrieved what needed to be retrieved and held
Right.
accountable. That's what we need to see, somebody who's got some real kajangas. So thank you. Lieutenant Governor, I appreciate you. Now, for
Thank you.
Gavin Newsom, if we continue, well, first of all, this should be a warning call to Florida. A warning call. If you don't think it's going to happen to you, look what happened to us. We truly are a red state. But unfortunately, the atheist Marxist mentality, indoctrination, propagandizing has taken over this state of California from everything from education to medical to the sciences to the televisions. Tell people what they need to see, keep them enslaved. That's exactly what they've done. And we've fallen into sentimentality. Now, I see the example you just set coming into our state as an example that we need to emulate. We've got to take a stand right here in our state right now because I mean the reality is, Joe, you and I were talking that if how California goes is how the other states will go. We're showing you. But there's those of us that have put a stake in the ground. We're not fleeing to Florida yet. Listen, I have family in Florida. I'll be there in a week. I'll be at Mar-a-Lago, and then I'll be down visiting my son in St. Augustine. But I'm telling you what, my stake is here in the ground. I am going to fight for California. That's exactly what we've done with Take Our California Back. What we're doing, what we did with Take Our Border Back. So, all I can tell you is this: if you think Gavin Newsom doesn't have this vision of getting to the White House, that's his vision. The world, the United States needs to see how conniving and manipulative he is. Look at us in California. There's a lot of good people, but we are at the tipping point of losing the state if we don't deal with the Marxist ideology, bring it to light, the mind virus. We're going to lose the state. It's time for all of us to really stand in the gap.
Now, Lieutenant
That's right.
Governor, we saw something devastating occur last night, and I would ask you the strong leadership we've had with DeSantis. DeSantis, many times, Governor DeSantis has just stood Gavin Newsom down and cornered him and said, "Hey, you're not doing that here." He sends you and him go out there. You go out there with the leadership and show that we're bringing people back. They're not going to go and do the damage they did in our state and go to California where they can be a felon, can be harvested and kept
Sanctuary
a
state.
safe hole. Yeah, sanctuary.
Right.
Mhm.
It's just unbelievable. And then even and we Kim and I talked about this the other day. It's if it's under $1,000, it's not a crime. So you and your wife, or me and my wife, or girlfriend, or Kim and her significant other can be walking around out there and they can grab a necklace off one of us that's under $1,000. Maybe it was something our grandmother, our grandparents gave us.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not a crime. And we got to just live with it. Or our daughter or our child is walking out there going to school or something. Um, you know, Lieutenant Governor, you're a military man. You're taught somebody comes at your family, they're not going to be moving too far. Um, how do we stop this from this state of Florida? People think in Florida this can't happen. Let me ask you for a minute. What do you do? How important is next year's governor race for the state of Florida?
Well, next year's governor's race is everything. If we are going to protect our nation, and as you said, I'm a veteran. I served my entire life. My wife is a 20-year veteran. We have 43 years of experience between us. Uh, the mission continues. The battlefield changes. Here in Florida, we lead. Right? When we lead, America wins. I believe that we are the conservative proving grounds of America. But it's unfortunate. Sometimes we take our foot off the gas. Maybe we don't spend enough time listening to what's going on in the community or answering the root cause and problems uh, as we should, right? I mean, that happens to everybody. And I'm not picking fights, I'm not poking the bear at all here in Florida. But what I will say is this: we, without a doubt, have to knuckle down. We have to stay in the same glide path Governor DeSantis has had us on, where he has had bold, conservative, focused leadership. And here's the thing I love about him. This executive energy model that our founding fathers talked about. Look, man, you got to go out there and hustle and work every single day. If you're going to get dressed up and wear a suit and a tie like this every day, you may as well do something that matters, right? Serve your people, make your community stronger, make a difference. This next governor's race really is critical because you're going to have to offset states like California, like New York, where they're getting progressively more progressive, where people like Gavin Newsom are trying to infect our state, Texas, and others with the same problem. Here in Florida, we've led on economy and education. We've backed our men and women in law enforcement. We have strict, hold people accountable policy in terms of law enforcement. We have their back without equivocation. That simply isn't the case in many other states. And this is going to really, in many, many ways, predict the future of where our country goes. It's a battle not for conservative values or democratic values. It's the very values that made our nation what it is. It's those American values that made America what it is. Those are the things we're fighting for. And it's making sure that we have the opportunity to pass this off to our kids. We have to elect the right person, someone who's going to be strong and hold people accountable, who's not going to roll back tort reform, who is going to make sure that we educate, we don't indoctrinate, that we stand for the right things. I ran a bill that made sure we teach the truth about socialism and communism, but we got pushback from the left telling us that socialism and communism essentially weren't the problem; they just hadn't been done right. Like, it's the same tired excuses everywhere we go. We know the truth. We don't have to learn these problems firsthand everywhere. We are the beacon of conservative values right now. We have to remember who we are, keep our eyes on the horizon, and keep grinding every day. Other states look to us, and it's time for us to lead.
Now, Lieutenant Governor, four of our biggest cities, four our biggest and most crucial cities now have Democratic mayors: Jacksonville, Orlando, Miami, Tallahassee, maybe even Tampa. I'm not sure of Tampa. I'm not, I don't know. So maybe even Tampa. How
It is.
concerning and how big of a problem is that for you, being a state leader? When you woke up this morning, what is your biggest fear of something like that happening, Miami flipping to a Democratic mayor?
Well, look, Tampa is certainly a Democratic footprint, right? It has been with Jane Castor. Uh, the reality is this, man. I got into politics because I want to protect and preserve what we have for the next generation. I have two boys at home who are 10 and 13, and they're everything. We have to maintain that. We have to protect it so they can protect it for their children when the time comes. But when you see Miami flip on this, something we've held for 30 years, and Emilio is a good man, a good candidate, and I want to put out here, I'm incredibly proud of the job he did. He worked his tail off. He was everywhere, doing everything for everybody, and I am incredibly proud. He did us well, but in the end, he needed more support, and we can't let this become the norm. We have a 1.4, 1.5 million person voting surplus in terms of Republicans over Democrats. But 5 years ago, we were upside down 300,000. Just as fast as we got it, we can lose it. We have to get back to work and like we're 10 points down every day, all day, and twice on Sunday, right? You got to keep focused and grinding. We have to protect our nation, and that starts in preserving the state of Florida as the beacon of freedom across this country.
Now, Kim, what are some of the things that you've seen in California that scare you that you want to wake up Floridians? Because, like our lieutenant governor said, we've got a big stronghold with Republicans, but we did in Miami. They didn't show up. It doesn't matter how big your numbers are over one party. If you don't show up and vote, they're worthless. So, what are your
Yes.
biggest things that you could let Floridians know? Because if, many people think this, if
Mm.
Florida goes, the country's gone. What do you
Yes.
think is some of the biggest things that will wake these voters up to get out there and vote in the governor
Well,
race?
well, I think the thing that's important, it's a great question, by the way. The thing that's really important is, yes, we've got to show up and vote, right? Ideally, I would love for us to move to paper ballot, hand count. I mean, one day of voting. That would be the ideal, wouldn't it? Now, unfortunately, the situation is the way it is right now, and we still have to take our elections back. The elections are still not intact. There is not integrity in the election process, in the voting process right now. So we're still working with the processes. And this is why we need the people. There's a lot of actions that still need to be taken to secure the ballot box. I know in our state, we are working behind the scenes to secure counties right now, moving them into paper ballot, hand count, utilizing, they're making us use tabulators, but the process we use keeps our eyes on that ballot once it enters the tabulator, once it comes out. We know that nothing is being flipped. We see what's going on with Venezuela right now. For those that know, they know what happened in Venezuela with our elections, then Florida, you better get up, just like your lieutenant governor said. You better start taking action and making sure you're helping at the polls. That even before then, you are making sure that everything is tight so that that ballot box is protected. Because if you do not, you're going to lose another county, another city. And before you know it, you're going to look like us.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Governor, many people are screaming, we need to keep the movement of going what DeSantis is doing. You basically, DeSantis picked you. He came out and said you're an amazing guy. Your track record shows you'll strongly support the agenda that he has pushed and for the people of Florida. We had a lot of people calling for you to run for governor. If you were governor, if you ran, if you decided, if you made that big critical decision, how would you combat and fight with or combat the movement of California coming in, the big cities turning Democrat, and even the worst nightmare that we could possibly fit in 4 years or 2 more years, Gavin Newsom somehow achieves to become president of the United States. How important is that role of governor, and would you play to keep this state from being overtaken by that?
Doubt. We have to. We are that critical foothold in our nation. And look, if you're going to do this, let's talk that DeSantis has done. You know, look at our approach to education. What we teach our kids is the reality of our nation tomorrow. We can't teach them garbage. It's making them competitive, but it's also getting them to understand and love the values that made America what it is. We can't go around and have people be apologetic. We are blessed to live in this nation. 250-year anniversary is coming up, and we should be grateful every day that God gave us the opportunity to be born in this nation. Without a doubt, I've been all over the world. One, you have to make sure we maintain that. School choice matters. There is no tube sock of education. One size doesn't fit all. course, it helps people who come from backgrounds like mine. Grew up on commodity cheese. I grew up without a whole lot of anything. It makes a difference in the lives of people. You know, we have to make sure that we stand by our law enforcement. The minute we become soft and we let people get away with it, everything falls apart. Safe, secure communities make safe, secure families. Safe, secure families invest money back into the community. They build businesses, and together we grow and make a difference. And, you know, beyond that, it's the rational grown-ups in the room. You know, for years we've been told that there are whatever 17 genders and men should be in women's sports and all of the nonsense and lunacy. Guys, we just need to maintain what Florida's doing and be fair and honest and give people opportunity, not outcome. That's one of the biggest differentiators that I think we have to continue to fight for. Our Constitution promises people that opportunity. It doesn't give them an outcome. We have to put in our time and effort to protect that. And, you know, we were talking about the ballots and securing those. One of the things I love about President Trump's verbiage and his wording of being America first or making America great again, it's a verb. It requires people to be involved. You can't make America great again by hoping and wishing. It just doesn't work that way. It takes your involvement. You know, think back to our founding fathers. If only 4 or 5 of them had been willing to actually put stake in the game, to show up and put their time in, their efforts in, they would have all hung separately. We wouldn't have a nation. We'd be a British colony still, right? The reality is they stood resolute and they fought and they defended what they have because they understood the intrinsic value of it. We have to fight for those values. We have to make sure that people are proud to be an American citizen. They're proud to be a Floridian and teach people civics in the reality of what our nation stands for. The world remembers it. It's time that the rest of our country remembers who we are, what America stands for, and what making America great again truly is about. It's a fantastic, an amazing dream. And it's reality we get to fight for every day.
Now, Kim, you initially started out and you and I met when it was Take Your Border Back. With the president in office, how do you feel the border is going and what are the conditions in California? The media never wants to report the truth. They never saying anything accurate. What is really going on out there in California right now?
Well, President Trump has done an incredible job of moving the needle. That's important. I know people who just took on positions with ICE right now because they're tired of sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to happen. So the reality is, we're still dealing with illegal immigrants crossing the border, not at the level by any means we were dealing with it. And the big picture is all of the illegal immigrants that are here in this country that came over during the open border time. There's not enough of the Tom Holmans and ICE and teams to go around to bring in all of these illegal immigrants. So unfortunately, I mean, this is, we take our border back. What were we talking about? A national breach of security. This is the Trojan horse to take down the country from the inside out. We're already indoctrinated, right? So unfortunately, we're still dealing with that. And here in California, that sanctuary state, which is absolutely illegal, needs to stop. So our next governor that we vote for will be somebody who says no to sanctuary cities, and we will shore up our borders.
Now, Kim, you've got a
100%.
lot of experience with Governor Newsom. You've been going head to head with him. Your organization has been calling him out continually. You know, a lot of people compare the Biden stuff was a disaster. You had an incompetent president. You had a president that really wasn't leading. We found out his auto pin's been doing more. You know, it shows why governors,
Yeah.
you know, they need to be strong because they need to be leading. We certainly know with Governor DeSantis, he's leading. It's no one else running an agenda behind him like Biden. Gavin Newsom, is he worse than Biden? Would he be a bigger threat and a bigger challenge to this country being younger and more competent?
Well, let's paint a picture for people. Would you like to have progressive overreach? Would you like to have high taxes? What about overregulation? What about policies that prioritize ideology instead of common sense, practical results? jolts, right? Stagnation, population exodus, social challenges. That's what you're going to have, United States of America, if you elect somebody like Newsom. No, he is a puppet. And we want somebody who's going to put a stake in the ground like President Trump. He's willing to fight, he's willing to put his life on the line, and he was willing to stand in the gap so that you and me would take our positions to stand in the gap and fight for this country. Enough of riding on the coattails of our forefathers. That's what we've done. It's now time to stand up, step up, and show up. That's why I'm here. I'm a mom and a grandma. I could be doing lots with my time, but our country matters. Our freedom matters. Our republic matters.
Now, Lieutenant Governor, Kim is talking about a scenario where a lot of Floridians probably think it's impossible of ever occurring. Even with Trump's endorsement, we just saw we lost New York to a Middle Eastern fruitcake, threatening to put a man in jail, a leader in jail if he ever comes to the country. Doesn't matter if the president invites him or not. We've lost New Jersey. We've lost Virginia. The governor race there, we lost that. Um, God forbid the worst thing that happened, and you just lost Miami, even with President Trump's endorsement. It needs to be a little more than just an endorsement. It looks like it needs to be a call of action. How have you, if the worst case scenario happened in 2 years, we ended up having someone like a Gavin Newsom? How do you see a strong governor, and how would you, if you were there, put up a fight against that to protect the state of Florida and the people here? Would you be able to
Well,
combat it?
Well, I think it's you see that model, right? Governor DeSantis did that with President Biden. You've got to stand for the things that matter. We don't cave to ideology. We stand for American values. We stand for our men and women in law enforcement. We protect our veterans. We want a economy based on opportunity, not outcome. We're not going to overtax you. I believe the share of debt shared by every Floridian is like $290. Look at that compared to the 100,000 plus of the federal government. That's good government. And the truth is, when Governor DeSantis asked me to do this, one of the things that he and I have always talked about and always agreed on is you want people who have spine, people who are willing to stand no matter how difficult, no matter the cost personally, not because it's easy, but because they necessarily even want to be in that fight because they have no choice but to protect and preserve, to stand up for what's right, do the next hard right, no matter the cost. Governor DeSantis stood during COVID against tyranny. He stood for overregulation, over involvement of the federal government, and he stood against every other state because he was right. That is what we have to do if that ever happened. But you know what? More than that, right now, what we got to do is take our brand of conservative values, our approach to what we're doing with the Governor DeSantis, win this state in 26 with the right candidate, and then export this across the nation. There is a dream for America that is good. It is what our founding fathers had intended. It's the reason we're a republic and not a direct democracy. And Governor DeSantis has built that model in Florida. Now we got to export it and help other states do that hard thing, that hard right, and do what's best for their communities. It's possible, it's plausible, but it takes people being involved to truly make America great again.
Lieutenant Governor, what would you tell the residents of Florida if they're what they're about to start dealing with when this mayor takes over? How can they know that they're going to be safe and the strong leadership of the state is going to help offset this? It's not like we needed another battle on the state level, but this is truly going to be a battle having a Democratic mayor now, and it's added to the fights you guys are going to have.
That's right. Well, look, the reality is we have marginalized mayors in every other major city when they try to do the wrong thing. We between Doge, between standing with our law enforcement, bold conservative values. I would tell people that if this bothers you and you're concerned about it, well, then you better help elect the right person in 2026. You better have a governor who's willing to stand for what's right, not what's easy, who has a moral compass that's pointed on protecting our people, not his own pocketbook, and someone who understands we better have our law enforcement's back all day, every day, point blank, period, no equivocation. They are leaders in our communities. The men and women behind the badge are incredible beacons of our community. And what we don't talk about it enough is their moms and dads, their sons and daughters, and they want to go live the American dream just like each of us. So they have our back daily. We have their back the same way. If we stand up for those hallmark things, economy, education, safety, security in the community the right way with a right conservative approach, because the right leader is in place and paints a bold vision of exceptional leadership, we're going to be okay. But then we got to push back. Look, if Gavin Newsom's president, he's going to have to get pushed. He's going to have to get punched, and he's going to have it coming at him hard and fast from the great state of Florida, because we're not going to kowtow down to the left. We're not going to paint a simple picture, and we're not going to let him destroy a nation that many of us buried our friends for and gave up a lot of our youth and our energy. This nation is, was, and always will be worth fighting for.
Kim, I'm baffled. This country just went through 4 years of turmoil, highest prices we've ever seen. You'd think that Florida, especially Miami, the state that led the nation,
Mhm.
would have been a little more reactive in this election. Does this scare you being out in California, seeing the state that led the nation in conservative and it basically saved it? What does this make you feel like?
Well, if we're going to talk feelings, I say there's some butt kicking to do, is what I say. I mean, listen, here's the reality. I said it in the beginning, Florida has got to wake up. And it's not just Florida, it's every single state right now has got to wake up. What you see happening in New York, in New Jersey, in Florida, California, it's coming to your neck of the woods. Yes, it's coming to your neck of the woods. So learn from us. I mean, everything that the lieutenant governor had just said, I mean, I want that for my state. Lieutenant governor, would you come to California? Would you just come live with us just for a little bit? I think the law is just for a little bit of time, and then we can move you into governor. That would just be fantastic, right? Absolutely. That's what we need for our state. But that's what everybody, I mean, what we just heard from Jay, every single state deserves to have somebody in a position that in our positions of leadership that puts a stake in the ground, just like he's saying. We need to fight to take our country back. It is not going to come back on its own. And we have to remember, this is where responsibility is taken. We allowed it to get this way. We
Right.
allowed Biden to be in position. All of this has been creeping in for years. The socialist, communist, Marxist ideologies, we've allowed it. What are we going to do right now to take our power back? We're going to stand up. We're going to show up. We're going to fight and do what it takes. I'm saying no more of what we just saw happen in Florida. Nope. And my grandkids are there. That can't happen in Florida. Florida, you got to stand up. I sent my grandkids there to keep them safe. Come on.
Lieutenant Governor, I want to thank you for joining us. Kim, I want to thank you for joining us.
An honor.
I think both of us, or all of us, this is a big wake up and a shock today. And this weekend ought to serve as one thing. As we enter into Christmas, you know, I know we've got a lot of things to be thankful for. We've got a lot of things to be excited about. We got a new year. Just a matter of fact of 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, we're going to see Christmas. A little over three, we're going to see the new year. The new year is going to entail the governor race. Um, Lieutenant Governor, I know you've had a lot of pressure and a lot of people asking you, what are you going to do? Or what are you going to be able to do? I know you're with your family, and we pray to God that you make the right decision. You do what you need to do. But at the end of the day, I think as Kim's showing and California's screaming, they're it's like a locust. They're coming here and they're going
We
to
are.
overtake every city. They destroy the path they go in until they can get to the new place, and then they'll destroy that. I can tell you, with people like our lieutenant governor and Governor DeSantis, we have put up a border wall that says, no way, you're not welcome here. You're not coming in. And if you come in and do something, we're coming to get you, and we're going to bring you back here and put you in a little place called Alligator Alley. And you may not like that. But that's why we do need strong leaders like y'all. But I want to thank y'all for joining us. And I want to really, one last message, if each of you could tell the voter in Florida, if you just give them that, what would your ending words say?
Well, Joe, thank you for having me on. It's a privilege to be on, as always. And I guess my last message would be this: we are the free state of Florida, but we're here because we have fought for our American values. We've taken a bold approach to leadership, and we have to maintain that. As we look across this nation, one, everybody should enjoy the holidays, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, enjoy the New Year. God bless this nation and God bless the free state of Florida. But in the end, man, we have so much to reflect on and so much to love. If we love it, we got to defend it. We got to fight for it. In 2026 is going to be a hallmark election. The future of our nation likely stands in the balance of winning Florida, making sure we have the right conservative leader in this footprint, and having someone who understands those values, someone who's put stake in the game, who's willing to put everything into this nation. It matters because if we're going to push back against Gavin Newsom and Memdani and the cavalcade of crazies across this country, well, we better start pushing back with bold conservative leaders in Florida, Texas, and other states who share our same approach. But friends, you can't just sit back there inside our state and be happy. Yes, we have to go to California. Yes, we have to use our voice. We have to go be evangelists, right? To look at it, I guess, in a very simple fashion. We got to tell the truth. We got to show what's in the art of possible. And together, we got to take back this country and put it back on the course of action that President Trump wants to take it, that Governor DeSantis has Florida going. And that fight belongs to all of us, not just one or two or electeds. It's the American people's fight. It's Floridians' fight. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? There is no other time but now.
Lieutenant Governor, real quick, the tweets that Gavin Newsom has been saying and doing about Florida, and Florida's on the brink of joining his agenda and the agenda that they have pushed out in California. Just wait and see. Do you have a few words for Governor Newsom?
Yeah, I think maybe he should go back and check his math. We are overperforming in economy, in education, in many things. And if he thinks that we are kowtowing down to the liberal nonsense, never going to happen. We're here, and we're going to continue to fight for what we have. Perhaps he should worry more about getting his state economically balanced and on the right approach and listening to his people rather than listening to the pundits who are putting squawk box talking points in his ear.
Now, Kim, what message do you have real quick for the voter, and how can the voters and how can the people support Take Your Power Back? How can they learn more about you as well as we wrap up here?
Absolutely. My message is Proverbs 29:2 in the Word of God. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. This illustrates how the moral character of leaders influences the well being of your city, of your state, of our country. It's time for us to remember that our founders, our fathers, our founding fathers, when they wrote that Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, when they laid the foundation, it was in God we trust. It was on
That's right.
God's word. So we need to put God back into his rightful place, number one, and that will begin to give us the wisdom and the discernment we need to fight this battle, the real enemy, which is Satan's attack on this country to take it down. Now, people can follow the show at takeyourpowerbackshow.com. And if you want to see all the work we've done in getting ready to place a governor in position that shares our values, go to takeourcaliforniaback.com. Take a look at the governor showdown we just did with 13 gubernatorial candidates, and keep your eyes open because we're about to launch some pretty cool stuff in taking this state back.
Guys, I want to thank you for joining us. And I want to remind our listeners this is a very serious uh, occurrence that happened in Miami. As you sit there with your families and you enjoy, in less than a little over 2 weeks, and you enjoy Christmas, remember, Christmas is the day that Christ was born. That's what Christmas means to many of us. It was the day that he had came in. We did create this country centered around him. You're not going to remove God from anything that God doesn't want you or want to allow you to remove. You're not going to be stronger than God. You're not going to stop the movement. He's inspired people like Lieutenant Governor Collins and like Kim Yeater of Take Your Power Back. We are very fortunate to have leaders like that, and we need to pay attention. We need to get up. The biggest challenge that we will have is sitting back and not doing anything or assuming that we're okay because President Trump has pushed so hard and so far and doing so well. Those border walls can open right back up tomorrow. Those people can start flooding back in and the disaster can start happening. And Florida could wake up with a very, very liberal Democratic governor, as we almost seen when DeSantis ran the first time. We could wake up with that. Look at your kids as you sit this Christmas day. Look at them and think about the future that they deserve, the future that we're fighting for right now, what we just went through, what we almost had occur, how we've stood up and showed the world we're the powerhouse again. We did that by coming together and voting at record levels. We put people in office like DeSantis, like Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, President Trump, J.D. Vance, the vice president, and many, many others. We need to be able to keep this strong movement and be able to keep this country the greatest place to live, work, shop, and play. Do not
Amen.
underestimate this election coming up. Look at the candidates very closely. Make sure they're there for you, for the people, and they're there to fight, to put God first, our country second, and make sure that our economy and families are the best they can be. Have a great weekend.